Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, yeah, there's just
Somebody's got to do it. He's so, but he's done. He's kind of old. I know he did. That report was just amazing. You know, I mean, I'm reading. Now, is that when they opened the door? I went, oh my God, we didn't know about this.
That one day where
they're always in all.
You know, that day on the 17th, the only reason I know is because my son and my grandson, we didn't go to the airport. His wife and the other kids left on Saturday. And I cannot remember being, I mean, I don't remember what it was like in Queensbury, but I remember my sister saying, oh my God, we didn't go to the lake today. It was awful.
it's your fault.
And those people, I said, they left her, just ditched the boat, called a taxi. They came out to get them at all. But how long did it last? I mean, it was like 4 or 5 hours. No. See, I was so busy with getting everybody out and everybody packed and getting them to the airport. I just cleaned up the house and I just can't remember, but it might not have been bad. It's fair. So many
Anyway, I've got basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Justin. I just want you to know, I printed this out. I bought that. You never know, you're like, oh,
That's the first thing I tell them, tell them.
yeah, I did.
They're gonna respect.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Does not want this. Okay. I got this one. Are we almost? Well, you are the key to the meeting, you know. We don't start without your authority.
Sort of going to just have
Everybody comfortable? All right. For the record. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. It is meeting number 549. It's Tuesday, November 20th, 2025. And we're at the downtown LA in Lake George. And welcome to the introduction. And there's Everybody here knows everybody else. Item 2, approval of meeting minutes and fiscal actions report.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, it is carried. Approval of the fiscal actions report for October 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Move seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, that's passed. Take 2 items. Project review actions report, Mr. Stanton.
Resolution 2025-44, accept project review actions report. Whereas the commission had received and reviewed project review actions report prepared by staff and dated November 18, 2025. And whereas the project review committee recommends acceptance of the project review actions report, therefore to resolve the commission directs that the project review actions report be incorporated in the minutes of the full commission meeting. So moved.
Second.
Motion made, motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item 4, almost time to go home. Job notification variance. It's you, Randy?
That is me, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
This subject property, is over in Echo Bay, about 103 feet of lakefront. They propose to, increase the size, well, add a sun deck, to the docks, increasing the width and the length. We met on site on Friday with some of the board members, and, they suggested, a slight modification to that. The applicant was, kind enough to work through the weekend and get that done. So they're gonna keep the length of the dock, or the sun deck, and actually maintain the width of that, and keep the proposed length, and also modify the stairs as per what the board suggested. This is taking place in a 20-foot setback with the neighbor to the east. And that's why there is a need for a variance on that. The height is, going from the 12-foot 1 inch high foot peak, and then sun deck is gonna go all up out of that state. Regulations of for variance on height. It's basically just extending that, the length of that in the 20-foot setback area. Also, with the change of the stairs, there's going to be a small deck area that's going to need to be added. So that's actually to complete the U-shaped dock. That's along the shore. And if this does get approved, as a note, we will need to send this out to a 15-day public comment period, just so that the neighbors can comment on the change in the stairs. And Morgan Gonzalez is here. He's the contractor builder who will be working on that. If you want to fill in any gaps or if there's any questions for me.
Good morning, Morgan Gonzalez, Lake George Docks. I like the Nicholases, they're nice people. And I did their neighbor's dock to the west, the big F that sticks out. I repeat to it, and it's shallow. And the rocks are legit. It's boulder on boulder. A lot of it is big, what do you call it, bedrock. So Mr. Nicholas, we originally entertained the idea of moving it over. And then there's really nowhere great to move it to, so we came back. He wants a sun deck because everybody's got a sun deck. When you entertain, that's where people hang out. So I worked with Randy. He had this. His brother's a home inspector. They had this great idea. They colored the one pier and do this, and there was no way to make it fit. It really wasn't the best plan. But with this plan, we found that there was a mistake in the file. So the peak is actually 12.1. So we didn't need the increase in height. We could fit all the framing and carry a boathouse as per normal and still keep his boat on the lift. That was great. The only problem is we're only understanding the stairs. Because there's 3 trees, mature pines, like 1, 2, 3, right across the shoreline where it would naturally come out. And it's at the back of the U, it's relatively shallow, it's sort of a dead space. So we thought if we put in, I refer to it as the bridge between the piers, I could bring the stairs down to the platform and then have them just trickle into the middle of the bridge. It's a little more space than if we tucked it right against the boathouse, because piers are only 4 feet wide. So by the time you bring the stairs on, you're now a step and a half to falling off the dock. So on this one, I thought this was the cleanest way to do it without having it look too ridiculous and putting too much structure over the water. So as little as possible to get it clean up.
Thank you. It's always good to, if a modification helps make it work. Maybe that's what we're here for.
I figured it was just a little variance. It's a lot easier than big variances, they are minor versus major, like if you go to some of these planning boards, sometimes there's so little, it's just, okay, it's a good idea.
Not just easier, but legal.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any questions about this?
I have one question. When we were there, one of the things we noticed is that the support piers for the deck is sort of almost in the middle of the finger without support underneath the finger. So I would suggest that from a safety standpoint, you probably want to move it so there's support underneath the whole thing. So the pier, the post would fall like on the ledge of the interior of the slip.
Yes, sir, I like to tuck them right up against the crib wall, like you're saying, so you never want to be more than halfway off.
Right.
There's some engineering math, which is, if the cross tie, that's what we call the horizontal supports. If you're here and you can do this at a 45 where your post lands, and then you not really put the blocks between the dock post and that for more stability, that's what I typically do.
Okay.
But this guy, if you notice from the framing, this might have been his first time.
Well, when you correct it.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay,
Super.
Thank you, Joe.
Resolution?
resolution 2025-45. Approved dock modification variance application, application number PWM 2530-123. Applicant is Christopher and Tracy Nicholas. Whereas the applicant has supplied a variance to modify the dock inside the 20-foot setback area. And the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. And the commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NY CRR 645-3.6 and the State Environmental Quality Review Act 6 NY CRR 617.5 that the project is a type 2 action, does not require further review of potential impacts pursuant to the SAC. And whereas the action is a minor project pursuant to 6 NY CRR 645-5.3, public notice has been published and distributed consistent with the regulations. And whereas the applicant has requested a variance form 646-1.1C11, every dock or wharf constructed shall have a minimum setback 20 feet from the adjacent property line, extended into the lake on the same axis as the property line runs on shore where it meets the lake or at a right angle to the mean high water mark, whichever results in a greater setback. And whereas the applicant has demonstrated that the strict conformance with this regulation will cause unnecessary hardship due to the unique and peculiar circumstances which impose substantial financial and technical and safety burdens. And whereas the commission finds that there is no reasonable possibility that the applicant's property will bring a reasonable return following conformance with the regulation. And whereas the commission finds the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area which is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Lake Shore Park Commission hereby approve the above application as proposed with the draft approval of this contingent on the completion of the second public comment period and those substantial comments received. So.
Second.
Motion's made, motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, passed. Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Item number 5.
That's also me, Mr. Chairman, thank you. The applicant, Morgan Gazetos, he is proposing on the property in question, there's a 35 feet of lakefront. It's currently permitted for a 26-foot wide, 33-foot long U-shaped dock with a boathouse and sun deck. And he's proposing to add 2 feet to the height of that. And with the property only being 35 feet wide, it hits the setback for both areas, thus the need for a variance by changing the height of the sun deck. The request for the sun deck height is twofold. One is to decrease the number of stairs going down to the sun deck. For the 4 members that were on site, they can relate to and see all that. You can see that in photos. It's a rather steep property. And the second reason would be to allow for his boat to get into the actual dock and sit on a lift out of the water so that it, I guess, extends the life of the boat and obviously doesn't get swung or whatnot. And we did not receive any comments from the neighbors on this for the additional height that would fit into the neighborhood, as there are other sun decks of that height in the area. That's about it. Morgan, ask you to come up to the mic and fill in any holes or gaps or answer any questions.
So who went to see my house?
Yeah, bro.
This is a terrible idea. And my wife's still mad about it, but. So it's one of those things where you get your chance, and for me, this might be the only shot, so I said, okay, let's do it. And then you start thinking, where do I start? So I start from the water, right? And we walked up on top of the boathouse, it's funny. And it's the old school where you did the joist, put the plywood over it, the rubber, and then the carpet. And I grow some mushrooms up there by accident. I have a small crowd of conifers coming up, so it needs to get done. The problem is, I was coming to you guys first instead of like going to Queensbury or the county. I stopped and see you guys because I figured if I figure out this part, then I'll move on to the next part. So Queensbury's after me about the septic. But my biggest issue for septic and site plan is getting down to the water. It's tough. Carrying a full cooler is misery. Carrying a sleeping child is great. But my point being is, all I'm trying to figure out is whoever did this, it looks like they did it haphazardly. And I think if I think my way through it, this is step A, I bring the boathouse up, I kill a bunch of stairs. So when you come down, there's these 2 stair packs. It's like steep, a little run, steep, they're 3 feet wide. If you went there, you can see all the new treated, the scrap off the dock jobs I did just to stabilize it and hold it together, because I went through the railing with a tube early in the summer. I didn't fall that far. I landed on the tube. The tube did not fare so well, but thank God it did. So I got to figure out how to make this better. And so I thought, by killing those 4 steps and utilizing the little platform on the back of the house, I can keep the stair packs small. I can almost turn most of that walkway into a ramp. And so that'll make it so, I always have this big fear, if you fall down a big flight of stairs, you're falling a long way. You fall down 3 stairs, it's not terrible. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to clean that up. So that was the driver behind this. And then Dunham's Bay used to be super calm all the time. And with the marina traffic, my boat takes a bounce. And so does everybody else's boat. And so I did Grace Francis's boathouse, I did the Cadina's boathouse, at least one more. And so we push them up in height, and we put the whips and the dock bumpers and all that. But I'm the guy who sells lifts, so I should kind of have a lift. It's one of those things, right? You sell Chevys, you should have a Chevy. So that was my thought, was all right, if I lift up my boat, the problem is, and I could have this wrong, in the old days, was it 14 feet the height above knee-high water for Queensbury
Yes,
when I first started?
yes, I think so, because I was on the planning board a million years ago, yeah, and that's why I had asked that same question when we were out visiting.
So every boathouse that I've redone in Dunham's Bay is the 14 feet. And so I'm just looking, I understand I have my sideline setbacks that converge or overlap. But if I just look like everybody else, it allows me to make my walkways better, keep my boat out of the water. The safety is really the biggest driver for me. The lifts are nice to have, and I really think that would improve the value of the property and ease of use. I don't like the way my kids tie the boat or my wife, so the lift sort of solves that. If you're ever in Cloverdale, you can stop by my parents' house and watch how many dock boats my cousins ruin because they don't know how to tie boats. So the lift sort of takes that all away. It goes up, it's safe, clean, high, and dry is how I sell them. So your out dries out of the water. The seals don't get attacked by stuff. The steel doesn't get attacked by stuff. You're not acid washing your boat every year. All these good things. Or in my case, I think my 15-year-old, when I'm sitting in the back and she pulls in, is not going to get that front post every time. One way or another. So anyway, I appreciate y'all coming out there. I think it's a neat spot. It's never going to be, one of the showcase houses, but I think that I can probably stay there for. I'm hoping the target number is 76. So I figure if I eat well and exercise, and I can hike those stairs for 30 years, that's my return on investment, the way I look at it. Mr. Francis, 2 houses to the north, is building a new house in Diamond Point because he's burned out on the stairs. He wants something with easy access. I've had a couple other clients over there do the same thing. But this for me was my one shot. So I thought, hey, if I make this as best as I can and stretch this out as long as I can, that's why I do the work I do. That's why I'm here. That's why November 2nd, I was the last wake surfing boat in the lake. I was out there at 3:02 for about 2 hours before I realized, oh, my feet are hurting. And so that's what I want to do. So I appreciate the consideration. But when I look at it from a return on investment perspective, I flip some houses. So you look at it, everything comes back to your basis cost, which is your purchase price. And so for me, this was my only opportunity to get in at a basis that I could reasonably afford. And so the thought from there is, what can I do to maximize potential? I'm hoping to leave it to my kids. I know everybody always says the same thing, but if something happens to me or whatever, I'd like to leave them with one asset to hopefully put a couple of them through college, whatnot. So that's how I look at this. Is I put all my effort and my energy into acquiring this, so this is my one big thing. Hopefully you can help me make it as great as I can.
I just have to tell you this, I met your goal, I'm walking on those stairs. So if I can do it at your goal, you can do it.
Yes, ma'am. I'm hoping the bionic knee thing comes through also. That's what I'm really looking for.
Commissioner Stanek and I would suggest you raise your projected lifespan.
I'm not sure. I'm not saying I'm going to pass it. I'm saying is to be able to carry down 2 fishing rods and a little box and make it back up before dark. That's what I'm setting my hopes in.
And it was icy, so you won't have that in the summer.
Well, I'm hoping eventually I mean, I'm there year round, so I'm hoping to figure that out.
You will. I give you a lot of credit.
Ma'am.
Thank you. I presume there's nobody else here to speak, but we had a visit there.
And it's a place where you definitely have a safety concern for those stairs and itself. And like you said, the spongy roof, I wasn't down on the roof, I didn't dare go all the way down.
It was spongy.
But it clearly needs a rebuild there.
Do you have a resolution?
Yep, resolution 2025-46. Approved doc modification variance application. Application number is DWM 2530131. Applicant is Morgan Astros. Whereas the applicant has applied for variance to modify their dock inside a 20-foot setback area, the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed it. The application supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. And whereas the commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NYS 645-3.6 and the State Environmental Quality Review Act 6 NYS 617.5 that the project is a technical act does not require further review of potential impact pursuant to this act. And whereas the action is a minor project pursuant to 6 NYS 645-5.3, public notice has been published and distributed consistent with the regulation. And whereas the applicant has requested a variance from 646-1.1C11, every dock of work constructed shall have a minimum setback of 20 feet from the adjacent property line, extended into the lake on the same axis as the property line runs on shore where it meets the lake, or at a right angle to the mean high water mark, whichever results in a greater setback. Whereas the applicant has demonstrated strict conformance with the regulation will cause unnecessary hardship due to unique peculiar circumstances, which impose substantial financial, technical, or safety burdens. And whereas the commission finds that the project the commission finds that there is no reasonable possibility that the applicant's property will bring a reasonable return following conformance with the regulations. Whereas the commission finds the project will have no adverse impact on the sale, health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or resources of the project, will not alter the essential character of the area which is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, audible, or impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby approves the above application as proposed, so moved.
Motion's made.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays? Mr. Chair? Yes? I'm opposed. You're opposed? Okay. So we have 8 yeas and 1 nay, correct? For the record?
9.
9 and 1?
Yeah,
Okay.
9-1.
9-1, thank you. And it's passed.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great Thanksgiving. Thanks.
Now, before I ask Dave to introduce our next item, presentation of the 2025 Lake George Refuse Study, I'd like to thank Tracy for knowing it so well that she got up and closed the meeting room door to slow the noise down. Thank you very much. David, we want to talk about our third rec study?
I would be thrilled to, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for pretty much all of our time, maybe even half the chairman, it was 2006 start, back in 2005, right? 07. Yep. For all of our time was the first recreational use study of Lake George. That was a yeoman's effort to kind of gather all the data and trends and all that information for the first time. The commission thoughts, basically under Molly and Joe's direction back in 2015. The board said we should definitely do that again. So Tracy at the time was working for the LA group, and she was the primary driver of all that effort over there. And now she's working as floating planning herself, but she's also working with Studio A, which is great. So for the third iteration, the 2025 recreational use study, they teamed up and they've been working all year and putting together, again, once again, what are the trends, where are we seeing some challenges out there in George. So Joe and Randy and Joe Jobs have put together a whole bunch of data that Tracy and Kirsten have been using to kind of come together and see what those trends are. So they're currently working on that report. But we asked Tracy to come today and kind of give a highlight of some of what those findings were. So you guys could ask the questions. That might help them form the final document. And that should be, I believe, sometime in early January, February, Tracy. But with that, we'll introduce Tracy and maybe Kirsten, and thanks for coming.
Yeah.
You might be okay.
I don't know what basis he's got. Anyone?
Yeah, I don't think all that.
Chris.
So just.
All right, slideshow, everybody. It's a little relief for everybody, and so thank you for hosting me. I'm here with Kirsten, and our roles are that, I'm the writer, put together the report, and Kirsten and her company are putting together all the graphics and the report together so it actually has meaningful content. So you all know what the purpose is. I don't have to go over that, but it is in 3 parts. We did data analysis, we did a survey, and we did a boat census to kind of give us a full picture of what was going on out there this year. So we're gonna start with the boat registrations are basically even. You can see, you can see some difference. I wish I had a pointer, but I don't. It's if you look at the total at the top, the green arrow just shows, some little dips, but generally it's about the same. This is not a big change. This year there were 11,350 annual registrations sold. Permit applications, well, yes.
What's a short term, is it just?
Day use, is it up to 3 days?
That's a week.
We have day and week passes, those are the temporaries and the annuals.
So those are, short-term people who don't want to buy a whole, don't plan to come back. So the applications were about steady for, this is the last 10 years. And, the commission reviews a lot of applications every year, and you can see the stormwater requests and permits are a lot. That's a lot of work. What we noted was the public vessel permits are way up this year, and you probably noticed them mostly up in Paradise Bay and around and about. They are doing everything. They're giving boat rides, they're giving tubing, they're, delivering people to different places, hiking and whatnot. They're just out there, doing a lot more than they used to do. So 96, that's a lot of PV permits to note. And that is in the last 7 years, it was 54, so that's that's almost double. Dock registrations, this shows you that, Bolton and Hague and Putnam had the most number of new docks in the last 10 years. You're going to see lake build-out, is going to occur in roughly 35 to 40 years, because it's just, the raw land is up still up north. And that's where you're gonna see 60% of them built at the north end of the lake. But it's kind of an interesting thing to think about, that the number of docks that can be built, it'll build out in about 35 to 40 years. Marinas, the most interesting trend here, I think you see motorboat rentals are 800 at 40 different facilities. That's a lot. And you also see quick launch 364 at 16 facilities. Most of the marinas are in Bolton, Queensbury, no big change there. But we have seen the marinas, we interviewed all the marina owners, or most of them, and they all say they're shifting away from seasonal slip rentals and towards these boat rental facilities. I guess it's more lucrative. Recreational uses, well, this is a little hybrid look at DEC's statistics that they provided me for camping and day use. And whether you like it or not, you are intertwined, and people just don't know the difference, right? So they're going to blame you for what they don't like about camping and day use on the island. But interestingly enough, the camping numbers declined this year and to their lowest. 61,370 is much lower this year. And whereas the day use increased to its highest numbers. And this is just since 2019, but it doesn't really vary beyond that. So that was that's an interesting trend, and probably it's just because people have shifted to shorter term visits, experiences, rather than multi-day camping stays. And we won't say anything about camping reservations in America yet. But interesting statistics. Assistance and enforcement, 12 accidents around the lake, and you can see from the chart that these were around Hewlett's Landing mostly, Shelving Rock Bay, Lake George Village, and Assembly Point area. These are areas, not points. These are areas. So you can kind of see where the concentration is with problem areas. Tickets issued, well, those motor safety certificates, we're checking for those, and so there are 36 of those. Speed only 6, vessel noise 4, and no boating while intoxicated tickets were issued this year, which is great. Emergency medical services and rescues, there were 70. And search operations 36. And I think those are numbers that generally people don't know about. Complaints way up, 897. And I think that is indicative of, their shift for the Marine Patrol is towards education and trying to improve boater behavior so they understand the rules better rather than enforcement priorities. Also, I think the Marine Patrol has moved to the strategic model, which is in the peak season, 5 patrol vessels working weekdays and 6 on Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and holidays, and then a specialized 2-person night patrol unit on Thursday through Saturday evenings and holidays. Big difference, right, Joe?
Yeah, that's 2 night boats with 2 people apiece, but yes. But
it makes a big difference when people see you out there. So proactive approach, emphasizing prevention and public contact over punitive enforcement actions. All right, so the second part of this story is a survey that we put out through SurveyMonkey all summer. And we got it out through survey links at the municipal level and agencies and the different lake organizations. And to the marina and business outlets, they were great getting the word out and on their websites. We put out flyers all over the place with the QR codes at the marinas and launches. And it was quite successful. We had 848 survey responses. And the last, in 2015, it was just a little over 900. So about the same. And it's a good number. And I'll show you that who these people are who responded were, a lot of them were, seasoned people here, right? In the chart, you'll see the annual, 62% have annual boat registrations, right? And then, interestingly enough, 1 out of 3 operated rental boat. So we got a good cross-section of people who live in the park and also within half an hour or so. So how are they satisfied with their Lake George recreational experience? Well, it's really quite high. 89% were satisfied or very satisfied. And that's the brown and the green put together, right? So you see, a very small percentage were dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, very tiny number, it's 4 out of 100 people. So this is very good, and it was 92% at the last survey. The top recreational concerns are unsafe boat operation, boatways, noise, and congestion. I didn't see a lot of congestion issues, but when they did report on it, it was Lake George Village, Sandy Bay, Narrows, Log Bay, and Paradise Bay. Not surprising. Then we asked them, how do you avoid congestion when you're out there? And most people said that they just went on the weekdays, right? And sometimes they voted earlier or later in the day. But what was surprising to me was at the bottom of the chart. Almost half of them said, nothing, we just deal with it. Because they like to go out on those beautiful, times when everybody's out there. We wonder why so many people just like to moor together. Well, they don't really mind this congestion. It's not congestion to them, it's fun. Overall performance of the commission, 75% find the commission performance is meeting or exceeding expectations. Really good number. 60% find the Marine Patrol was saying met or exceeded expectations. You can see that in the blue and green chart. It's very high, and you ought to be very proud of that. So the one thing we did in the survey was we had this open comment section, and I just didn't know how many comments to expect. We got 301, which is a lot. And so a lot of people mentioned these safety regulations and certificate and are calling for universal boat license requirements. That's a big one. I'd say that's the top. More enforcement of noise limits in anchoring areas and near shore speeding. Anchoring, well, they call for Basin Bay needing mooring buoys, and they talk about disrespectful day boaters. Environmental issues, algae blooms, invasive species, water quality. Not a lot on that, but for mentioning it. This changing boater behaviors, they noted increased littering and disrespect for natural areas and etiquette and stewardship. Not much you can do about that. And then the system and infrastructure issues was a big one. Reserve America system is awful. I saw that comment really more than once. Again, nothing you can do about that, but it is worth noting that there are a lot of Airbnbs in the basin, And they are clogging up the works. They're buying and holding reservations and take it away from everybody else, just in case their people want to, use the camping and day use spots. That's a problem. Boat launch operations need improvement. I don't have any details on that, but perhaps you probably know what that means. This was an interesting piece though, and when I put together the whole report, you'll be able to see these in their beauty. And they weren't terrible, I mean, they weren't, obnoxious or anything.
Reservation issues would result in reduced camping calls that was on the screen of human people.
Yes, I think there's a direct correlation, and so do they. So the third part of this study is looking at the surface use, right? So we looked, that map there with all the little segments has been used since 2005. And we used it again in 2015. And so we can actually compare and contrast areas. And this next chart is better to see and understand that in 2005, there were 1,373 boats on the lake. 2015, 913. And then in 2025, it leaks back up to 1,235. And when we counted boats in this year, I would say that we chose Saturday. July 4th was Friday. Joe thinks that there were more people on the lake on Friday. It's really, you never know, right? It's all weather driven, and we're in a helicopter, so we can only have good weather days. So it's probably about right. And you can see that these don't differ a whole lot. That's really very few boats, 300 boats difference. So then you can see in the North Lake how light it is, but how consistent it is as well. In the middle part of the lake, same, right? I mean, I'll show you on some photographs how that bears out. And the South Lake has, as expected, the most number of motorboats because that's where most of them live, at marinas or facilities. So that's an interesting graphic. So I'm going to show you some photographs, and I hope this wakes you up, livens you up a bit, but these are beautiful photographs I thought you'd enjoy from Carl Highland, great Carl Highland, and it hopefully will tell you the story of what we're doing. So Lake George Village, on the right of the photograph is the only public boat launch on Lake George, followed by steamboats, which are all out in that photo, and public docks on the left, more excursion boats, rental boats, 2 parasail companies that can send out 3 at a time, so that's 6 out on the lake, and and then we move up into a whole bunch of commercial motels, hotels type places. But this is, even though that happens, and this was about 1:30 in the afternoon, 1:45, there's not a lot going on there because this is very destination driven. People don't hang in the South Basin. They come in, they go out, come into the public docks, they go back out. This is English Brook, and what you will see, it's a little hard to see, but there are about 70 kayaks, recreational kayaks or little non-motorized boats. And these, now, I took my own count on a very early morning of kayak, and I counted 233 kayaks and small unmotorized boats from where I live up near T Island all the way down to the first motel on the lake. That's a lot. This is a third of them out there, and you can see they cluster, they congregate over by the delta because, well, they can get out and swim or play. But the problem is that they do congregate, and as you get more and more, they push out into the 5-mile-per-hour zone. But it's been disruptive to the Minnehaha and other boats that come down through there, and they don't have any ability to turn or stop, and it's a problem. And all of those boaters, they think they have the right of way. but they really believe that, you know, you should stop in the Minnehaha, which, you know, barely slides around on the water, right? And it's very subject to wind and what have you. So, I'll let Joe, if he wants to talk a little bit about what you did this summer, I'll give you that chance. So that is English Brook. Harris Bay, you can see around the Happy Islands where people are anchoring, and that's what I'm mostly gonna focus on, is these anchoring areas that have to be looked at, because they take up a lot of space. You have got Sandy Bay up there in the middle, you can see that's packed, every buoy is tied to, and then there's other randoms out there waiting. This is, you know, the famous Shelving Rock and Long Bay, and I think this day there were 122 boats, I believe, that were anchored there. You saw from the ticket data, there's a ticket data around this area is pretty strong. So there has to be lots and lots of patrol activity there.
Sorry, folks.
That's okay. But you can see how congested this is, and this is on any given nice weekend, that's the way it is. And I like it that way, apparently. All right, so you move up to Red Rock Bay, and you can again see that they're pretty tapped up in here. There's, you know, they like to raft together. The top of the photograph, that's 8 very large cabin cruisers rafting together. Again, that's how they like it. This is the Mother Bunch, and the Mother Bunch have this fairly new anchoring area in the center. It's nice swimming, it's shallower there, and it's protected, as you can see from the island. So that's kind of a growing spot for anchoring. And Gold Bay has some anchoring as well, but not much. I mostly show you this photograph because it looks over at Hague Bay, and you can see how light the boat traffic is up there on July 5th in the afternoon. Nice day, wind's coming up, but still, you know, nice. Glenburnie, very light. That's more than usual, but very light. The Waltonians up in Hague. This has also become an area that there's more and more anchoring because it's very nice swimming in there and it's shallow enough and protected. Arcady Bay has some anchoring. I just show you this because Rogers Rock area is very light, at least this year, and I didn't hear anything different in the future. You can see at the bottom of the slide, that's Anthony's Nose, and that is a beautiful place to anchor and swim, and people have discovered it. Drops off, it's pretty, it's very deep there, so, you know, I don't know that it could get any worse than what you see. This is the top of the lake. You can see, this is Prisoner's Island, and we're looking west, and it's hard to see in this, but there are a whole bunch of anchoring going on between Prisoner's Island and the mainland. That's not new, right, Will?
It's new in the past 5 years.
New in the past,
I
okay.
mean, it's certainly gotten much more popular.
And this one just shows you that there is no activity at the old dam or the boat launch or the Thai state boat launch. But what I really like about this photograph is you can see there's agriculture. There's agriculture in the basin, right? In Thai. It's a beautiful photograph of that. Quite striking. This is Hart Bay, and we've had reports about Hart Bay, people anchoring in there. But you can see they're well offshore, well beyond the 200 feet, and it's generally not a huge issue, but it exists. Northwest Bay, very quiet. As Kirsten will tell you, once you get 2 or 3 tubers out there all going in circles or figure eights, they take up a lot of acreage, and it appears to be busy. Right here, not so much. Nice shot though. And this is the needle there between Montcalm Point and Turtle Island, and this is a no wake zone, and you can see there are wakes. Definitely there are wakes, and there's some non-compliance there. But also it shows you up at Montcalm Point there, that little bay where there's anchoring, and also over in Turtle, there's anchoring going on from day users. Sagamore or Green Island, well, this photograph shows you this is where it's at. This is where most of the boat traffic occurs. Is it congested? There's a lot of lake there. You know, it's just busy. It's just busy. And you have, your points are all the association and marina points around, and they're all heading over across the lake to Shelving Rock. They're on their way to some destination, right, or up to the Narrows. And Hull was quiet this day, but it's not usually this quiet. And you can see a bunch of boats coming out of Chips down below, but that was how it looked at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on that Saturday. And the last slide here is Basin Bay on the left and Boone on the right. You can see there is anchoring, and people do raft together, and people get upset about that. And where they're anchoring is not too far offshore, but it's not really near anybody. So they just do their thing, and the same over in Boone Bay is gaining. Boone Bay is gaining. So get back to where it was. Well, anyway, I'm gonna the next step in all of this is that we are going to complete the report for the next 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks. We'll complete the report, and we will get it up on the website, and you can tell me what else is going to happen. Anything?
No, so ultimately, the final product is going to be similar to what we had in 2015, which is, I think it was maybe an 8.5 by 11 landscape, not glossy, but map, but very well kind of published and whatnot. Did we talk about how many copies of that card?
No.
We're going to get?
No.
How many would you anticipate that would be receiving? Talk about that.
I would think maybe 100.
That would be fine. Yeah, just for partners, municipalities, so we'll probably go around watershed, share them, talk to the supervisors about some of the trends, those types of things. We've already talked to all of them yesterday a little bit about this, so we'll probably do some press announcements and whatnot. And so, yeah, that'll probably happen in December or January, so depending on your schedule.
Yeah. Okay.
What's our goal? What do we do with this product?
Well, 2 primary things. It gives the public a good, solid glimpse into what's happening on Lake George, especially the trends. And then internally at the commission, it helps Joe Ryan and Joe Johns determine resources and as commercial applications come in. I know for one, Joe and Molly for many years have relied on that as to say, well, it's been shown, documented that these areas might be a little bit overutilized. It's helped the commission in the past with various marine expansion applications to take a look at what that has. So we really have 2 kind of outcomes of this. One is publication, say the commission is studying and understanding the lake and its recreational uses, and also internal opinions.
Great, there's a help for tour boats. They're looking around where they're going. Very good.
Public question.
Yes.
Do you have any data for Hewitt's Landing, Hewitt's Bay? There is a major marina there, and also a ranger's island, a ranger station. I can't remember any data for that, and also right across the lake at Santa Fe Point, and there's a major marina there, Sun Harbor South. I was just wondering if you have any numbers for those 2 areas. And also, just got a little bit on the west side to Silver Bay, which is towards South Bay. And I didn't see any data, and you went from the Mother Bunch, and then you jumped all the way up to Gull Bay and missed Hewitt's Landing. And I know that that marina in Hewitt's Bay can be very congested.
It wasn't that day,
Okay,
and nor was that a big right or Silver Bay. We're pretty light, and, like I said, it changed in a minute, right?
yeah,
But we did interview, Snow Harbor South and North and South, and also the Hewitt's Landing Marina owner. And so we have some good information, and I have shots of it. So we can look at those. I didn't present them because they just were not, they didn't tell any story.
well, another, you know, how everybody, many boats are now approaching north. I don't want to, probably that's a heavy duty word, but I do know that in Cook Bay, we have quite, some days, it's not as, wasn't as bad this year as it was over past years, especially during COVID. But, we get a lot of anchoring in Cook Bay, and they are not, you know, they're legal 200 feet from shore, so we'll go out on paddle boards and, you know, let them know that they have to go out a little bit more. But, we've seen a lot more use in that, in the northern basin. Thank you. It's very, pictures are beautiful.
Any other specific questions?
Great job.
Okay.
Thank you.
Turn the blue light on, there is a man wants a blue suit. Well, thank you. Plan that we'll look forward to doing it again in 10 years. Now, item 7 on our agenda. I haven't used this title very often, Deputy Director Joe Cohen. We're carrying it forward with software license renewal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the resolution before you is to renew our annual subscription for CitizenServe. CitizenServe is an online database specifically designed for government use for permitting and code enforcement and licensing. Historically, the commission had multiple databases we used for fiscal stuff, permit databases. We had different things on the server. We had, you can imagine, dozens and dozens of filing cabinets, and the data was all over the place. 2018-ish, we started looking for new options and scour what was available, either doing something brand new and unique to the commission and being built specifically for us, or looking at existing platforms that are available on the market. Ultimately, we settled on CitizenServe. It is, a platform that was available but highly customizable. So in 2020, we started using that for a permit database. Since then, 2023, we're using septic inspections and also for all of our bills and fees for boat registrations, septic registrations, that sort of thing. So right now, it's a great resource for the staff. It's kind of one-stop shopping where we can see all our data. It's also reliable, it's cloud-based, and secure. So it's a good place for us to keep our data and do business with. So it has an annual subscription that's user-based. We have 10 users. So this resolution allows us to do it for 1 month.
Do we need to read? I guess we should. Read the resolution. Anybody have any questions about it? Before we do this? Straightforward. You want to?
I have it right here.
Actually, let me ask one question. Is this a cloud application or is it local?
It's cloud-based.
Okay, so safer.
Resolution 2025-47, acceptance of CitizenServe license renewal. Whereas the commission has a need to maintain practical, reliable, and secure databases to carry out its duties. And whereas in 2020, the commission began using supported cloud-based database platform Citizenship to track issuing an archive its regulatory permits. And whereas in 2023, the commission began using the Citizenship database to track, process, and archive annual registration fees as well as to track and facilitate septic inspections. And whereas the subject database has proven to be valuable and efficient tool for staff to carry out duties of the commission, and whereas the Citizenship database has annual subscription costs commensurate with the number of users, now therefore be resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby authorizes the executive director to spend $18,900 to extend the annual subscription for Citizenship. So moved.
Second. Motion made, motion second. Any additional comments?
Got a question,
Yes.
Joe. Do you think the staff time saved, makes up for the cost of the software?
I do, so previously we had Fox Pro, which was a program, I think, from the agency group, which Molly and Keith Fish built from the ground up and tried to maintain independently, so it wasn't supported outside, it was built and maintained entirely through staff time. This new platform has, full-time staff where they respond to you within minutes or hours, and they're, maintaining, make sure it's up to date, so absolutely discount from that perspective. But also looking for files, right? Before we used to have different databases and filing cabinets for fees versus permit stuff versus enforcement. Now you can pull up a single parcel in the park, you can see every permit, every bit of fees, everything's sitting right there.
Seems much easier for users too, it's not just internal users, but the public.
Right, and it's also helped, kind of staff work on different things. Before I was never involved in this, I couldn't see them. Now, we can see fees or carriers, phone calls, you can see the permits that have issued, so it's kind of allowed us to cross-train and support the other elements of our business.
It also has a history of all the changes made to a given property, and you can track it and, resume. Rather than have to manually go back and look at history, it's right there in the database. And it allows us very efficiently to do the three buildings, the annual building and recovery and the delinquent. I suspect it more than makes up for the cost of stuff.
Oh, yeah. And then you have the value of the cloud-based storage, right? Before we were one fire away from losing all of our data. So it's much more secure, which is.
Yeah. So I don't think we could overstate what it does for the commission. The entire regulatory program and now the entire fiscal program are in one program that is supported by two major efforts. One is Joe Stanek, our de facto unpaid staff member, who every now and then will just dig into the data and find something that's not quite operating exactly right, and then the whole group of citizens serve. So the cost for what we get out of a program to have one-stop shopping for pretty much everything that we do for administrative management is pretty incredible.
With cyber protection, this is a new project.
Right.
Huge.
It plus it's a chance to recognize Joe's hard work that we can't.
It's really does.
I think he was in the office first to get this.
I was just gonna say the exact same thing. I know he opens up the office. That's great. So, did we read the resolution?
Yes, you did.
It's all approved.
I
We didn't vote on
I
it?
interrupted the
All
vote.
in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, now it's carried. Item 8, law enforcement committee report.
Okay, the law enforcement committee met at 9:30 this morning, and Lieutenant Johns, they filled us in on equipment. All but one boat is out of the water and winterized for the seasonal openings are, and we kept one boat in for emergencies. And we will need to replace the GPS radar unit on another boat before spring, and winter maintenance work is going to involve replacing motors on boat 108. Those motors, by the way, were purchased last year, and remove and replace the floor on one of the tri-tune boats and fix some cracking on the deck of another one. And as far as the Marine Patrol is concerned, on December 12th, there's going to be an amazing reenactment of Henry Knox's, bringing the artillery, or bringing the cannon down from, Fort Ticonderoga through Boston, and of course, they're going to pass through, Lake George, and, the Marine Patrol will have a boat standing by just in case something goes, awry. And then we went into executive session and we came out and the meeting was adjourned. Any deletions or additions? Then I will read the resolution 2025-43, whereas the Law Enforcement Committee met on October
48.
I have the wrong one here. It's not October. I have it right here. Okay, the Law Enforcement Committee met on November 25th, 2025 to review matters pertaining to the Lake George Park Commission's Marine Patrol and the Commission's law enforcement program. And whereas active law enforcement cases and their status were reviewed in executive session, and whereas the Law Enforcement Committee has reported on the results of the committee meeting at this full commission meeting, and whereas the Law Enforcement Committee recommends acceptance of this month's law enforcement report. Now therefore be it resolved that the commission accepts the report of the Law Enforcement Committee. I move.
Second. Motion made, motion second.
Do we
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
And so,
Carried.
there we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, public comments. Hearing none. Item number 10. Motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. Carried. There we go. And happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Awesome.